Undermine is another roguelite dungeon crawler that was released recently on Xbox Game Pass and probably other platforms as well. But because I'm poor, all the games that I play, I just pay for them in monthly installments through this subscription rather than a one-time fee. And I guess that's good. Well, now it's especially good. Anyway, I apparently have been playing more of these games recently, these dungeon crawlers, such as Neon Abyss, Enter the Gungeon, and I recently bought Exit the Gungeon as well. So now I'm feeling more comfortable talking about them with the ultimate authority that I have. Undermine has you playing as a procedurally generated miner sent into the underworld by a wizard to discover various relics and kill various bosses. There's a little more world building through the characters that you find, but those basically don't matter because the game is built around you going into the dungeon and trying to make it as far as you can before you get killed and have to start all over, just like all the other games in this genre. In this way, it ticks all the boxes of what a dungeon crawler should be. The rooms are procedurally generated, you collect power-ups on each floor, there are potions that add additional options and abilities, but the main commodity that you are searching for is gold.
And I'm gonna kick this thing right in the face. We're gonna go get some freaking gold.
Well, I see gold on my finger. My face is burning.
Since you are a miner, it only makes sense that that would be your main goal through this game. Now, of course, your main goal is to kill all the bosses and reach the end of the dungeon, but that's very difficult to do on your initial runs. Other dungeon crawlers that I have played seem to focus on what people in the community call RNG, or what I call random bullshit luck. In order to reach the next floor or beat that really difficult boss, you have to get that really good gun or ability in order to do so. This can be frustrating as the player, and Undermine offers an alternative to the RNG wheel that so many of these games seem to fall into. Instead, Undermine wants you to grind.
We gotta go. We're going now. Go!
Oh my God.
The best way to defeat the bosses or make any deep runs into the dungeon at all is to upgrade the various abilities that you can in the hub world of the game. You can basically upgrade everything about your character, from health to attack damage to range damage to bombs to the store that you find going through the dungeon to the potions to how you grab gold to the blessings that you can get, etc, etc, etc. It adds some RPG-esque elements to the game, but really it just makes it feel like you have to spend forever playing the game. If you want to make it further, then upgrading your health may give you that much needed boost to get to the next level. It encourages the player to make one more run because they might just be able to afford the next upgrade, rather than actually being able to defeat the boss. It basically just turns the game into a tremendous slog. There are many roadblocks in the game that can only be overcome through the upgrades that you buy in the hub world. Some of these are literal walls, such as the fact that the only way you can fast travel and skip levels is if you upgrade your bombs. Or it could be just that you reach the point where the enemies are too difficult to beat until you upgrade your abilities. The only way to upgrade is to get gold, and the only way to farm gold is to go into the dungeon. The big problem is that a percentage of your gold is left behind after your death. You can upgrade the ability of how much gold you get to keep after your death, but even this takes time. Rather than feeling like a game of skill where my ability can overcome the game mechanics, this game feels like it's tailored towards somebody who's willing to put in endless hours rather than anything else. That's fine, I guess, but to me, that's something that's a huge turnoff in a game because I know I'm not going to make it further because I need to grind. I frankly just don't have the time or the patience to put up with games like that. This strange artificial inflation of game time can totally ruin a game experience for me. Undermine, however, is not totally ruined, but I do wish it was less grindy. The game feels a good deal slower than other dungeon crawlers as well. This could be because of your move speed as the player, which is very, very slow until you buy an upgrade to move faster. And it could also be the combat system. The combat's pretty cut and dry. You only have two attacks, your swing and your throw, or essentially melee damage and range damage. These two options do not offer a lot of creativity when it comes to attacking the various enemies that you encounter through the dungeon. You also can get bombs, but those can also be used for unlocking secret rooms or chests, so generally you want to save those for those other moments in your run rather than just killing enemies. So you have two attacks, and you only have one dodge, which is also your jump. Basically, the combat just does not present a lot of options to approach the enemies in creative ways. You have to attack in the same way for the enemy, and that just fucking sucks. It essentially just handcuffs you to a certain attack and a certain way of playing. Add to this a really stupid AI where the enemy seems to kill itself just as often as you kill it, and you have a bad package as a whole. I kid you not, I found ways to cheese so many of the enemies that it made the combat less and less fun. However, it seemed like the game made itself more difficult by just throwing more and more enemies at you, and enemies with more and more frustrating abilities. That didn't make the combat more fun, it just made it more frustrating. The combat as a whole just doesn't feel fun. It doesn't excite me, and it just felt like it was standing in the way of what the game actually was, which was just a gold collecting simulator. It also affected the boss fights, because you're stuck to attacking in like one way, so you better figure out the right way to play the boss the first time, or you're going to have to go all the way back to the beginning of the game. Fun stuff. But, despite all that, I did keep coming back to this game despite the grind that I felt and the lack of joy in the combat system. The core of this game was very addictive, and it kept me playing it longer than Neon Abyss did, with its similar mechanics and design base. The core pieces of this game felt strong enough, and each run was unique enough to make it stand out. There were a high number of enemies, which provided variety. There were multiple pickups and options to upgrade your characters. There were a multitude of shop options and hidden rooms to be discovered, as well as a number of characters to unlock through your run throughout the game. Each of these, along with the upgrades previously mentioned, presented different options for each run that did provide a little bit of the spice that the game needed and which the combat lacked. The altars, the curses, the chests and the hidden rooms, the bombs and the obstacles, the dogs that you find, the pilfers, and all of the other surrounding items provided interesting and unique opportunities to the runs that made them stand out and made each one fun. Oh, and let me talk about the pilfers for just a second. These are these little fuckers that are designed to ruin your day. They just show up and steal your gold and run away off the screen, and initially I did not think much of them, but as you get further into the game, it gets more and more chaotic, and those little fuckers can really get in the way. It's an interesting game mechanic, and I think it does add a little bit of rush to the game that really doesn't have a lot of it through the other systems. So that's fun. Also, the game does look good. On first glance, it looks like it's just going for the retro style that is very in these days, but actually it's incredibly clean. All the animations are solid and crisp, and it just creates this nice layer of fun joy over the top of a game about repeatedly dying over and over again. Visually though, it does not stand too apart from other dungeon crawlers I've played. It does have solid music and sound design, so those things are really nice. I don't think it's really anything to write home about, but whenever I review an indie game, I try and remember that this game did not have huge amounts of resources or people working on it, and yet it's still fully functional, fully working, it looks great, it sounds great, and it's fully realized, which is more that can be said for a lot of AAA games that have been released. Also, on a final note, I have not beaten the game, but I've put almost 20 hours into it, so I feel like I can speak with some authority on the game. It is difficult. You aren't going to beat it right away, and that's how the game was designed. If that frustrates you, I totally get it, because I kind of feel the same way. But I do think it is worth it to put in some time to experience the game and see if it's something that you want to sink more time into, even if you're not going to end up beating it, which I probably won't. So, I do recommend the game, but I don't expect it to set your world on fire. That already happened because of a gender reveal party. God, what are we doing with humanity? Instead, I would just expect a fun game that has a lot of life, but also barriers to entry in some spots as well. Give it a shot. Bye.